As part of Dinosaur's 21st birthday celebrations, as the youngest dinosaur, I've pulled together 21 questions to ask you about both you and the agency back in the day.
Okay.
So, are you ready?
I am.
So, I've always wondered this. Why is Dinosaur called Dinosaur?
It was inspired by a sketch from Bill Hicks, but that's what brought us to the moment. But really, we were looking for a name that wasn't like everyone else's, one that had standout, and one that was a bit bold. And a lot of the agencies were picking cool names, or using their surnames. We didn't want any of that. So Dinosaur it was.
Something a bit different.
Something a bit bold and a bit provocative.
Nice, I like it. So, you were 29 when you set up Dinosaur. What made you want to start your own agency?
We didn't sit down and have a really big meeting. I was in an agency and it had got taken over by some other people, and I went to a first meeting with the new owners to share some creative, and they basically went off the handle in a way that I'd never seen before. It was kind of slightly weird. And then at the same time, my friend who I shared a flat with was doing loads of freelance and was getting overwhelmed by it. So I was scribbling out ideas in the evening, and he as a freelancer was working up in the daytime. And before long, we kind of had half a business out of the house. We decided to get a telephone and get a desk and go for it.
Great. So, I was actually only a baby in 1997. What was Manchester like then? I've heard the Northern Quarter was a bit dodgy.
Yes, it was. The Northern Quarter wasn't even called the Northern Quarter. It was just a place. And rent was cheap. Curry houses had been here for years, but there was no street lights, no police, no kind of people after about 7 o'clock. A lot of drop-in centres, so it was quite hairy in the evenings.
Back in the day, what type of work did Dinosaur do mainly? Obviously not digital.
When we set out, we felt that integrated, or the new wave, was to marry graphic design and advertising, but there was a movement that was just starting up where you could combine them both, which was done best by Kessel's Kramer and their work for Diesel, amongst others, and so we really enjoyed their work, and there was also a little bit of a kind of slight irreverence for advertising itself. So the work that we were doing back then was kind of in that mould.
So, who was your first client and how did you manage to get them?
Who was the first client? The first client that we kind of grew out of the bedroom I talked about was I forget what they're called now, Scottish in Newcastle, which was a pub group. So we do loads of stuff for loads of brands that went into pubs, from everything from Red Bull to the wines to the beers.
I've heard that people used to answer the phone with a growl. Is that true?
It is. It's not a growl. It's like I can't really do it very well.
Don't go on, have a go.
It's more of a grrr. Grrr.
Should we start doing that again?
But we used to do that just because we kind of we'd just get bored answering the phones.
Yeah, I definitely think we should start that again. So did you have a mobile phone when you first started?
We didn't, no.
Did you have a pager thing?
We had a pager thing.
What does that even do?
What does it do? It's kind of like a text message before text messages. So it would send you, and you'd have it clipped to your belt or something like that, something really cool like that. And then it would bleep, and there'd be a message on it saying call such a body. So your important client would tell you that they needed you, and then you'd run to a phone box. That was quite cool back then.
Yeah, sounds hard work. How did people find out about Dinosaur without Google or social media?
How did the world even happen without Google? We don't know. The Yellow Pages?
Oh yeah.
No, word of mouth. It's a good question. There was a lot of digging. I don't really know.
Please, can you explain to me what a fax machine is? Because I don't get the point of it.
Don't get the point of fax machine. So basically, to get an image to someone rather quickly, rather than attaching a JPEG to an email and sending it, you would basically photocopy the thing that you wanted somebody to see, stick it into a machine that would then take the image in, turn it into little bits of digital stuff, send it down a phone line, and hey presto, at the other end, the image would appear like magic.
Wow.
And then you could see what they'd done, but it was all very rough and kind of digitized. On it would go till it just became this mess of black and white,
Sounds
digital
like
squares.
So what tunes were playing in the Dino office in 1997?
I think there was a lot of Verve going on at the time, so plenty of that I would imagine. For me personally, quite a bit of Manson.
I've not heard of those.
Not heard of the Verve?
No.
Oh my lord. I mean, you'd be forgiven for not knowing Manson, but that's a surprise you've not heard of the Verve. But anyway, check them out.
I will, I'll have a look, I'll Google them. What is Dinosaur's proudest achievement?
I think maintaining a culture over 21 years, you know, not having to kind of, you know, just do things because you want to chase the money or anything like that, but, you know, staying true to your kind of philosophy of wanting an agency that produces creative that you can be proud of.
Have you ever made a slip up with a client that you still cringe about today?
There's probably loads. Again, this was back in the early days before Google, before all kind of ways of kind of tracking people down, and we'd met a client and wrote their phone number down on a piece of paper, spent 2 weeks doing some creative for them, then realised we'd lost the piece of paper and couldn't get hold of them. We racked our brains at how we could get hold of them, and we never saw them again because we didn't ring them.
If they were making a film of Dinosaur, what Hollywood actor would play you?
So Michael Fassbender did Steve Jobs, so he's out. I don't know, if it was my personal choice, I'd choose Jim Carrey.
I've asked around the office who they think would play you.
Lovely.
So I've got a few here. So we've got Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves,
Yeah.
for any reason at all, because he's really wooden at acting.
Maybe. Then we've got Owen Wilson.
I'll go with that. I have no idea why, but yeah, we'll go with that.
And finally, this is my personal favourite, Jason Momoa. I can really see the resemblance there. Describe Dinosaur in 1997 in 3 words.
In 3 words. Talent, but unhinged.
Nice, I like it. And Dinosaur today?
Dinosaur today. Talent and hinged.
Okay. What advert do you wish you'd made?
I always loved the pot noodle ads.
Yeah.
When it was kind of like a dirty secret to eat pot noodle. I thought that kind of identified the audience, which was me, really well. So yeah, you know, there's loads and loads of fun stuff, but maybe the series of pot noodle ads.
Cool. If Dinosaur could work with any brand, who would it be?
Good question. I think my favourite brand would be VW. I personally love the brand and love their vans, but I think also they've always allowed the agencies to do amazing work, really kind of emotive work, clever work, funny work, witty work, going all the way back to one of my favourites, Bill Bernbach, you know, who kind of set the ball rolling with some great advertising.
Say I decide to set up my own agency in 8 years' time.
You should.
Okay. What advice would you give me?
Set off just doing the work that you want to do, and make sure you find the people who appreciate that kind of genre of work. But yeah, just go for it, don't worry about it too much.
I've heard about advertising agencies in the 90s, few different stories.
Okay.
Were you one of those work hard, play hard creatives?
We were. I'm not sure we had a lot of choice. You kind of down tools about midnight, stay out till 3, 4, and then you're back in at, you should be in at 9, but probably back in at 10, half 10.
Love it. And finally,
Yes.
which is your favourite dinosaur?
Which is my favourite dinosaur. Yeah, the Velociraptor in Jurassic Park was astonishing, so I guess that's my favourite.
Mark, I thought you were going to say me.
There was a pause, and that pause was while I thought, are you referring to members of the staff? In that case, it would be Francesca.
Yay! Thank you.